Deedle-dum-dum, deedle-dum-dum, deedle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you, duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover. This is an official civil defense film produced in cooperation with the Federal Civil Defense Administration and in consultation with the Safety Commission of the National Education Association. Produced by Archer Productions, Incorporated.
In 1951, America told its children that survival was simple. Duck, cover, wait for the flash. It was a time of fear disguised as optimism, when turtle cartoons and canned jingles promised that order, obedience, and faith in authority would keep you safe. Behind those smiles, a quiet message. If you survive, rebuild, reproduce, replace. And the world did. The bomb didn't fall, but babies did. The post-war population exploded, spilling into suburbs, schools, and shopping malls. 70 years later, the explosion has gone quiet. For the first time in modern history, humanity is shrinking. Japan loses nearly 1 million people a year. South Korea averages less than 1 child per woman. China's population has begun to fall, a first in millennia. Even the United States hints at decline. The global fertility rate once hovered around 5 children per woman. Now, it's barely 2, and dropping.
To talk to you this morning about population collapse, and as if to prove the point, even this room is thinly populated at this early hour. It's a speed dating session. I'm going to speak for 15 minutes, and then Masood Ahmed is going to spend 4 minutes responding, and then there'll be time for questions. The history of human population is a remarkable history, because for most of history there really weren't very many of us. It took 123 years for the global population to double from 1 billion to 2 billion, then 33 years to go from 2 to 3 billion, 15 years from 3 to 4 billion, and we've been adding 1 billion roughly every 12 years since then. This is a population explosion that mostly happens in the 20th century, as this chart illustrates. But the question I want you to contemplate this morning is whether the trajectory of human history is about to change course drastically. This chart is one that caught my eye. It was published in the New York Times last year in an article by the demographer Dean Spears. And he argued, and I'll quote him, if the world's fertility rate were the same as in the United States today, then the global population would fall from a peak of around 10 billion to less than 2 billion about 300 years later. And you can see the scenarios playing out in the red projections. This, I think, is a future relatively few people have fully understood. Elon Musk has been right about quite a few things, from electric cars to reusable rockets. It's also been his preoccupation for at least 10 years. I remember discussing it with him 10 years ago, that population collapse due to low birth rates is a much bigger risk to civilization than global warming. Is he right?
We should be concerned about demographic implosion.
Why do you say that?
So if you look at countries like Japan, most of Europe, China, and you look at the birth rates in a lot of those places is only at about half of the sustaining rate. When you have an inverted demographic pyramid, so if you look at the pyramid and you've got age striation, 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 20-year-olds, like sort of a demographic pyramid.
Right.
And in some countries it's like an upside down pyramid, so it'll sort of fall over. It will not stand.
The story of the 21st century isn't overpopulation. It's the slow silencing of the human chorus. Writing for Current Affairs, Samuel Miller MacDonald asks, commentators across the political spectrum claim that humanity faces imminent collapse due to a fertility crisis. Is this mass delusion or cynical propaganda? Pundits like Elon Musk and Matt Walsh warn of population collapse. MacDonald argues that the real collapse isn't human, it's ecological. Species around the world are dying off in what scientists call a sixth mass extinction, driven largely by human activity. Ironically, a lower human population might actually help preserve life on Earth. So what's behind all the fertility panic? Some use it to justify nationalism, arguing countries need bigger populations to compete. Others push it as a way to control women, limit abortion, or enforce traditional family roles. And for the wealthy, it's about maintaining a steady supply of workers and soldiers. But let's say it isn't purely propaganda. Why the quiet? Because we can't afford to make noise. Housing is a luxury. Childcare is a second mortgage. Debt is a birth control device. Because the planet is heating, resources thinning, and young adults look at the future and see not promise, but penalty. Because our species has never been more connected and never felt more alone. And for some, it's not despair, but mercy. They choose not to create more bodies to hurt, to fear, to fight. An act of quiet compassion, a voluntary pause in the cycle of suffering. But what if this decline isn't an ending? What if it's evolution in disguise? For thousands of years, we were told to be fruitful and multiply. Perhaps now we're being asked to be mindful and simplify. Creation may no longer mean babies, but ideas. Not nurseries, but networks. Not bloodlines, but code lines. Maybe consciousness is shifting vessels, from carbon to silicon, seeking a form that harms less and learns more. And if reincarnation is real, perhaps the souls that once crowded this planet are finding new worlds, new forms, returning not as children but as circuits of awareness in an unfolding universe. Evolution was never about bigger numbers. It was about better awareness. In 1951, Bert the Turtle taught us how to survive a blast. In 2025, we're learning how to survive ourselves. Perhaps this time, ducking and covering means stepping back and listening to the planet breathe. Perhaps decline is not death, but balance restored. And if humanity fades a little to make room for what comes next, maybe that's still creation, just in another form. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we ponder the questions rarely asked.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
Hey, gang.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, just
out there.
in case you didn't know, today is International Caps Lock Day. Last night, Comet Lemon was supposedly visible. I went out at like 2 in the morning after working on the video, and it was all cloudy, so I couldn't see it. In science news, there are now mosquitoes in Iceland.
Oh,
And
wow.
in the country of Colombia, they found evidence of another species, and it has no DNA that matches known humanoids.
Wow.
And it supposedly lived in like 6,000 years ago, and how they portrayed it was kind of almost like a bald androgynous, you know, those white figures?
Wow.
Kind of like that. So I'm going to research that a little bit more, but it was very interesting that science is perplexed because there is no genetic tie to anything known on Earth.
Really? Oh, I want to do some research on that myself. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I saw that. I think in Popular Mechanics of Live Science, one of those.
What,
So
what was the where was this origin of
I'll
this?
send you links when I.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of a heavy opening video, but you know, this whole thing about population is so big right now. It's like whenever I open my phone, I just see news stories about it, and there are people on both sides of the aisle. And I know that even myself, this is going to sound so weird. When I was young and growing up in the cult, you know, I kind of believed the religion and what they were saying, and I didn't dare ask the question out loud. But to me, it felt like it was cruelty to bring a child into the world to have such an angry God that would just throw it in some lake of fire and kill it. And so, you know, so now I've been seeing this anti-natalism thing, and it doesn't judge whether people have kids or not. It's not judging others, but it is about morality and what your own personal feeling is. And that's why, for those of you who have joined us tonight, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed to Denise's Substack, you need to do that, because she had some very interesting, like, automatic writing things in the last few Substacks that were talking from this being called, is it Zoma? Is that how you say it? Yeah. And I just thought it was so interesting, because one of the questions I've always had is, why do we have this huge, you know, how the people with the World Forum were showing how population just exploded. And they think it's going to get to like 10 billion, but then it's going to drop, and it's already starting to drop. You know, so the people that are greedy are like, oh man, this isn't, you know, we need our money, it's going to hurt our economy. And on a more practical level, it's kind of like, well, who's going to take care of all these aging people? You know, and I think that might be where robotics and AI can come in and be of service, because it's going to overwhelm the system. On the other hand, I mean, I'm of two minds on this, because on the other hand, it's kind of like, you know, even during COVID, look at how the earth started restoring again, just from everybody being inside. You know, we don't take care of this planet. We're being, and like science has said, and I've heard Denise mention it several times, we are in the 6th great extinction right now. And so we have a chance to turn it around, but will we? I don't know. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
Can
Go
I say
ahead.
something? That infuriated me. I thought I was going to have a stroke while I was listening to Elon Musk, because he didn't say what his real motivation is. He's a eugenicist and a white supremacist, and he's all about spreading his sperm indiscriminately. He mails it to strange women. I mean, this man is not well, okay?
Yep.
It's not about how many people, it's about what color the people are who are here, in his mind. And that's not what he's sharing. He's all about the dark enlightenment. He wants a nice, solid base of worker bees to support these elite white people at the top. In the meantime, we have this enormous population boom, which I feel guilty talking about. I have 5 kids. I contributed.
No, but you fit right into the you know, women did have 5 kids then. I personally think that all of this is...
No, she's not that old.
What, were your kids born in the, like, 60s? When were they born? Oh, they were the 80s.
I think I am.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most of them were born in the 90s. But
okay.
They're spread out really far. So just because they are, I had one born in 81 and one born in 96. So
so they're still young. Okay.
Well,
but that was the norm, though. And it's just kind of gone down. Some people by choice, others not so much. And I'm just thinking, for myself, I think maybe
I think
it's evolutionary.
Well, the trend actually started in my generation, in Gen X. We were the small, it did, in the 60s.
No.
Yes, it did. Oh,
no.
Yes.
I'm answering.
Is it Latin American?
He's South African.
No, he's South African. But it did start then, and I remember because because you had the baby boom in the 50s, And then by the time I went to school, all of the schools started getting closed down because there was a huge drop in the population. And for most of until recently, until people started making those decisions not to have children, we were the smallest generation for a very long time, which is why we didn't have a lot of cultural power, I think, because we were in the shadow of the baby boom. Like every school I went to was half closed. My high school had 2 giant high schools that each had about 4,000 or 5,000 kids in each high school. They collapsed the high schools into one high school because that's how little we had half the population of kids when I was in high school. So I think the trend has been going on for a while, because the reason that happened in the 60s was because of birth control, because people could use birth control, became legal and safe and effective, and people started choosing not to have a bunch of kids, And then subsequent to that, I think people started thinking about this. Do I really want to have kids? I don't have to have kids. I have ways to block having kids. And that trend started getting, and then as things the rich got richer, the poor got poorer. People just felt like they couldn't afford to have children,
People can't afford to have children.
No, they can't.
So if there's 10 billion people and 8 billion of them are excessive burden on the planet, so what if they don't have children? It's a good thing that they're not having children, because they're not adding to the problem. I think if we had the original number of population, the baseline population before that big spike, and there was a drop in birth, then maybe we would have something to talk about. When you've got that gigantic spike and those people are not having children, good.
I've been thinking, thank you for asking, Donald. Yes, I am getting better. Thank you. But I was going to say something I've thought about a lot over the last, and I've never really talked about it, and this is going to be kind of a weird thought, but human, like they were showing you, there was only 1 billion people at the turn of the last century. We are 10 times as big now.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that, how it's, I don't want to get all biblical, but how it says in the end times, everybody will be back here, right? I kind of wonder if maybe we're all here. Anybody who's incarnated here at one point or another is incarnated here right now for this big shift that's coming, this big change. And perhaps it is like our overpopulation and all this that's driving it as well. But maybe we're in this, there's a change, and we're all kind of part of that change, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, because that's one of my questions. It's like, what has, on a spiritual level, what has driven that spike? Why would there so many souls choose to incarnate at the same time? Because it's really, when you looked at that chart, whoa, it's shocking
it's
when you look at it.
It is. It's insane.
They got the invitation to the big final party because this is it. Because
I think it is. It's the last.
Screwed it up, and it's our last chance.
I kind of think maybe this is a turning point. Obviously, climate change. We know we're past the point of no return with that, and that is going to affect the Earth. And whether we like it or not, that's going to decrease population. Even, this whole thing with worrying about that. I remember when in the 60s. I think it was, the guy, it's escaping my brain because I have a little bit of a migraine, but Aldous Huxley wrote a piece about overpopulation, and there was a movie, Soylent Green, which was made sort of in a lot of worry about overpopulation, because that generation had gone from, like, my father was born in 1914, which he was old when he had me. So when he was born, there was about a little over 1 billion people, right? And then when I was born, there was maybe 4 or 5 billion people. Now there's twice as many people. In my lifetime, it's doubled, which is kind of insane. And I remember thinking, reading and thinking about all that overpopulation. People were really worried about that it was going to overburden the planet and it was going to cause all these resource problems, which it is, actually. It's part of the problem. Brave New World. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And there was even like a really bad movie made in the 70s called Logan's Run, which was really
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of trepidation about that. But it's interesting that people are worrying about that now, because in reality, it is a problem. I mean, if we didn't have 10 billion people on the planet, we wouldn't have probably the water problems we're having, like you're having in the South, you know, in the Southwest.
Actually, you know what's shocking? I had an article came out. I don't remember where it was.
Yes,
one
in
of the
Chicago.
yeah, and they were talking by 2030 that it's going to be an absolute drought. Absolute.
Yes.
That means you have no water. There's no water and Chicago was on that. I was blown away that Chicago was on there right next to the Great Lakes there.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know why that would be, but maybe
Well,
they
is
just
it going to matter? I mean, are they predicting like this gigantic war by 2032?
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
water might be the least of our problems.
But they're saying 2030. You know, what did Mark Twain say? Whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. And that is going to be the genesis, I think, of a lot of, you know, it's going to be water and land that you can use. And I personally think that some of our greatest conflicts are going to come from climate issues. And the climate stuff is what starts the immigration thing. And this is the thing that makes no sense to me is that, all right, these economists are so worried about a declining population, yet immigration is the thing that helps sustain the economy.
Yes.
But then when we close the show tonight, I'm going to show a video for those who want to watch, because it's like 15 minutes. It was from the Department of War in 1947. Some of you may have seen it. But it is shocking to see how our consciousness, at least on a government level, has declined.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll play that at the very end. But climate is going to drive all this.
Why do you suppose he's going at Canada, the 51st state? Let's invade Greenland. Why do you think? Resources.
Water and minerals,
Water.
Well, I think the thing that from that story I was talking about, Aldous Huxley and all the fear about overpopulation, well, I think it is probably driving climate change and driving, you know, resource issues. We are totally overtaxing the environment. Absolutely. But I think the thing is, we don't really, that prediction, now it's like, oh, we're used to having this many people on the planet. What are we going to do? We have to keep this many people on the planet. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. And I think it's kind of a ridiculous fear in a lot of ways, because we did just fine for a long time with 1 billion people. You know what I mean? We don't need 10 billion people on the planet to make the planet. In fact, the planet would be probably better off if there were 10% of us here, you know?
Well, that's what I was saying. Who cares if they don't have babies, right? Don't replace themselves. Yeah.
Right. But the model of capitalism requires that we have consumption. And if you're talking about, I've heard that too. Water and electricity too, because of all the AI stuff.
Right.
But if you think about how capitalism is built, it's built on this constant growth model, which is not sustainable, and which, even if there was a decline in the population, AI itself is probably going to bust that before the problem comes with underpopulation. Because at a certain point, AI is going to replace most people's jobs, and we're going to have to figure out how to, delegate resources and how we're going to change our system. But as that's all happening, we're kind of teetering on the edge of a world war. I mean, there's a lot of shit happening all simultaneously. And I think it's weird that people focus on just one of these issues rather than holistically. These things are all connected,
Yes,
you know?
they are.
Yep. And I'm thinking, there were like different models, like spiritual models, why this huge like jump and then decline in population. One of them is just recycling. Souls just keep coming in and out, but sometimes the souls split. And this is like one of those questions I've always had. You know those people that are born that have like 2 heads and all of that? How does that work with their souls? I mean,
I think there's 2 souls in there. I think what happens is that's when you have 2 twins, like, who are merged in the womb,
Yeah, they don't split, right?
But
it's like 2 souls.
2 people in there. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one of them. The other one is an expansion model. these are kind of like my paraphrasing on different like spiritual theories I was reading. The expansion model is that the universe constantly wants to keep getting experience. So it's like, well, let's just keep creating more and more of these humans so that we can have this experience. And this is where your Zoma thing I thought was so interesting, where, you know, it's like a kind of an experiment in a way. And then some of these souls go immediately, you know, after they're freed of the incarnation thing, to the source instead of constantly doing this, which to me could explain the decline. You know, they're popping in for the experience and then popping back out. The fourth one is the multiverse model. And, or that's the third one, excuse me. And that is where souls are coming in from other universes or planetary systems or whatever to experience what it is as humans, and then they get stuck in it. You know, because it's like you said, it's a hard school to be in. And then the fourth kind of is like the expansion model, where souls are just one aspect of one great mind, and so the mind is sort of expanding and taking on different, you know, like some of the deities where they, especially in the Eastern religions, you have several deities all representing the one God force.
Yes.
And so it's kind of along that line. So
it's kind of like the Elohim too, is like that in the you know, in the old, you know, in the Bible, I think the Elohim represents all the angels of God. And yeah, it is fractal of the source. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it's like it represents all the angels, all of the beings of heaven, and all the faces of God, I think, too. But I don't know that it says that in the Bible, because the Bible wanted to focus only on, you know, Yahweh. But I'm pretty sure that that's an idea that came before the Jews became completely focused on Yahweh, the Elohim. That's my take on it. Yeah.
You know, and speaking of the Bible, I think, you know, a lot of this has been driven by scripture. You know, like it says, you know, multiply, and like it was a great blessing. And I showed a little bit of the Duggar family, which is part of that quiverfold movement, where, you know, these are all your quivers and, you know, of the Lord. And, you know, people sincerely believe that kind of stuff. Back when I had the God discussion show, I had a bunch of people that were from some of this and some of these polygamous families also. And it was really remarkable. Like one person, I'll never forget her, she was talking about how they wanted to keep everybody uneducated. And so that they would continue with this thing of having kids and whatever. And when she was rescued from this, and it wasn't like the main, you know, thing that everybody hears about with these polygamous families, it was like an offshoot. She didn't even know how to read a clock. That was how deprived of education that she was.
That's sad.
And so when you hear these politicians... Yeah, no, she really had no basic understanding of any of this, and, you know, how to read, how to do these kinds of things. And so, you know, when you hear this stuff, anti-education or whatever, and statistics show, and when so with increased education, there are less children being born.
That's true. And people are realizing, I mean, that was a big, for me, my whole feeling was I love kids. I wanted to have kids, but I thought, I don't want to bring a kid into this world. I'm very worried about what's going to happen. I'm freaked out about it. And I waited till I was like 40. And then I'm like, okay, universe, if that's what you want me to do, I will do it. But, you know, and then it happened. But and it was very weird and kind of miraculous that it did happen. But I do feel like I can understand the anti-natalist movement, because I felt that same way. Like, is it really humane to bring people into this world as messed up as it is? You know what I mean? But at the same time,
I've been listening to some. Go ahead. Sorry.
At the same time, though, the experience of being here is only temporary, and I believe that people do want to have this experience, and souls want to come here for whatever reason to experience this. And so I think you have to sort of balance that with, if somebody wants to be here, we have to leave doors open for them to get here. But so I don't know. I'm of both minds on that. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's free will.
It's free
And
will.
if
Yes.
you're not manipulated by an external control system, then you inherently can follow your own free will. I was never going to have children. I was adamant. I was never going to have children.
That's how I was too.
Within a week of meeting my husband, both of us wanted 5 children.
Wow.
It's karmic, you know?
Yeah, right. It is karmic. It is karmic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And now we've had 46 years to regret it. No, I'm kidding.
Don't let your kids see that.
Now, my point would be that it's an individual choice and it's karmic, and women are often deprived of the choice.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and that's
Sorry,
where
no choice.
I kind of, right, and that's why I'm of the mind, because this is such a global thing that I think that
It's
it
not
is
just-
more of a spiritual
Yes.
evolutionary thing that's going on. It's kind of like, okay, all you souls that wanted to get through the gate, you're in, but let's calm this down before we destroy the planet.
Well, maybe all the souls that are supposed to be here are kind of reaching peak. I mean, if you think about historical periods, right? I don't know how many people were living during the ancient period, but probably not even a billion people. I mean, it was probably like 500,000, maybe. I don't know what the statistics were, but if you keep reincarnating, those same souls keep coming, and maybe different souls incarnated during different periods. I don't know. But if you figure throughout the history of the world, there is probably about 10 billion souls that came here and have reincarnated at different points. And I think maybe possibly even what's happening here now are people who haven't been here for a long time, maybe are not, that's why there's so many people who are star seeds and all this, who are coming back for this final kind of chapter of this major change that's coming. And I think the Bible is one of the things, which I don't want to say that it's exactly like that is going to exactly happen, but I do think that there is sort of like a lot of prophecy across the board in every culture that talks about this period of and like the Mayans. They said 2012 was the end of the world. And really, since then, it seems like things have escalated to this place where it's building to this peak and things are getting ready to sort of end and maybe restart, So it's across many cultures that there's been these prophecies about this period. And in the biblical one, all of the souls are back or are here. And I know a lot of the ancients did believe in reincarnation was sort of taken out of the Bible by the Romans choosing what was going to be in, and they curated it for their own reasons. But a lot of the apocryphal texts talk about reincarnation, and I'm sure that's what was applied in that all the souls are going to be here, and they were going to be here on the judgment day, whatever.
Yeah, all the graves open up and all the dead
Yes.
rise
Oh, yeah.
up.
Them bones, them
Gonna be a
dry
party.
bones. But, one of the things in your Zoma message that came through that I found very interesting, when I moved to Arizona in the 90s and got involved in water and, and I actually moved here to study archaeology. So I would go on digs and do different things. And I was told, at least in the 90s, now I don't know if it's the same now, but the Anasazi, the ancient ones that lived in this area, vastly outnumbered the known population of the 90s in Arizona of so-called civilization. There were that many more. Now, there was, this is going to sound really weird, but some of the Hopi Zuni are kind of like their lineage is sort of tied to the Anasazi, the ancient ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in this town for a while about 30 miles north of Phoenix called Cave Creek. We were all creekers. And there was this canyon that I'd gone to, and I don't remember how to get back there. It was top secret. And you would go for walk through this 3 miles, and there were all these petroglyphs in there and all the beings that headed east. They always go east. And there were spaceships and all kinds of stuff that very ancient. Right. And some of the Hopi women, because they were more of a maternal sort of religion,
Yes.
the goddess energy.
Matriarchal.
So this was kind of a thing that they would go through this canyon, and there was like a mountain up there, and they would literally like transform and leave. They would disappear. It was a gateway out. And so when you had that about the Anasazi, I've been having like weird dreams. The Anasazi are out here. This is Anasazi land here.
Right.
And and I've done digs and kind of unearthed some of their stuff.
Honestly, I don't know much about them.
They're an ancient civilization that used to be in the Americas. And so anyway, I was just telling Bove this whole week, I've been having like this weird like dream thing, and it's like a Maxfield Parrish sort of image, but it's this area. And it said, "You are in Zion." And I knew I was in Zion. Wow. And in the dream, it was saying it's tied to the Anasazi.
Wow.
And then I got like this anagram in my head that Arizona means Zion arisen.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
So I looked it up because I know that that's very tied to the LDS church, but I thought there's got to be more to it. There's got to be more to it than that. Well, it's in the Bible like 290 times or something, Zion, and then there are other spiritual beliefs that go deeper, and it is an area that is protected by God and a transformative area. So going back to the point you said about all of these souls that are coming, that you all be here, it makes me wonder how many of the Anasazi are coming back to reclaim the earth. This ancient civilization that used to be there, because that's like one of their things, too. I mean, all of these ancient religions, you start tying it together.
Right, and, Well, I know that the Native Americans had the whole white buffalo, that is the rise of the Native people. And I remember in the 90s there was talk about a white buffalo, but then it was sort of went away. But there was actually a white buffalo that fit exactly their prophecy that was born not that long ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
I think, to me, it's a metaphor for the sort of return to like having to live in peace and harmony and oneness with the land. You know what I'm saying? And that we're all going to have to learn to be more like the native peoples or the indigenous peoples of the world. Maybe we'll have technology as well, but we're going to have to learn to live communally. We're going to have to learn to live in ways that are totally anathema to the way that our civilization is now. Very, very different,
Exactly. Yeah, because there's no sense of community. I mean, in little towns like where I am, there is definitely a sense of community. And if bad things happen, everyone's together and we're helping each other out. But, I think even in the cities, that tends to happen when something, people do, get together and...
it breaks down into the traditional.
You're going to love this comment, Helen.
You live in Mormon land.
Yeah, we do.
Do you mean you live in Utah, or do you mean it's all Mormon land?
We live
the Southwest is a lot of Mormons.
Utah, white, redneck, heterosexual Mormon hell.
Well, I hate to say this, but I'm related by marriage. And it is a sight to behold, to hear what... I had one of them try to convince me that George Washington treated his slaves really well. They had a good life, because I told her that his wooden teeth were actually a wooden base, and it was teeth extracted forcibly from his slaves because they were in such good shape. And she tried to explain to me that it's because he took really good care of his slaves. God help us all.
That makes sense. Why you pull someone's teeth out.
Wow.
It's really good taking good care.
HBH, it's ringing a bell, but I'm not sure. Can you let us know in the chat where you wrote about them? I would love to read about this, where the petroglyphs are out there. So if you could kind of let us know where we can read that, I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, petroglyphs are very interesting, too. And that was a feeling.
Is that where the Anasazi were located, where the petroglyphs are, or is it a different area?
It's like this whole area. There's like if you go along the Little Colorado, they're all. It's kind of like the whole Four Corners area, basically.
Right.
Is
The
so.
whole they're the ones that were taken by the ant people underground during the flood.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
it's interesting that. Well, I was going to say that the Anasazi, there's these myths and legends about different peoples that were prehistorical peoples. You know what I mean? Like really, really ancient peoples. I don't know what to think about the Atlanteans, the Lemurians, but the Anasazi kind of fit into that. Although the Anasazi actually have genetic lineage. They actually are. We know for sure they did really exist. You know, I don't know about some of the other, other ones, but it's interesting that everywhere in the world there are groups. There is sort of this period of prehistory where all these very advanced sort of cultures were that just sort of disappeared. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Really,
they've tried to explain it away to like Okay, let me see what HBC, now called the Crane Petroglyphs. I am healing basket herbs on Substack. Ann Phelps, thank you so much. I will look for you. Subscribe. I can't wait to read that and see where it is. Thank you.
Very cool.
You know, they even found, I don't know if any of you have been to White Sands National Monument.
No.
Oh my God, it's near Roswell. And,
right, I know, yeah.
Okay, and you drive. Drive through and it's so disconcerting because it's like all this white sand and your mind tries to tell you it's snow, but it's like 90 degrees out there and you're like trying not to skid. And it's like, anyway, they found a civilization under there that dates to like, I think they said 30,000 years ago that used to be there. Wow. And then this thing in Colombia, I'll look for that and send you links, and maybe we could talk about it next show about these other like beings that they found that it's not even tied DNA wise.
Yeah, we'll have to read that. You know, there's also really not long ago, I think maybe the last, when is there a soul recycler on the moon? I don't know about that. but there was I want to talk about that though. I want to talk about that because it ties into the thing that Zoma was talking about, because Zoma was answering my question that I asked, which wasn't in the transcript. But so you remember I told you the story about how I was taken on my body about 5 years ago. I can't remember the time frame now, but I was taken on my body and I went through the bowels of this ship, and then I was shown there was this machine that was like this, and I saw this floating little boy in there, and I was told the experiment is like, this is over, but I didn't really know what was happening, and it freaked me out. I'm like, and there was a gray there, and I'm like, what the fuck are the grays doing like with the recycling thing? It really creeped me out. And we talked about it. That's
awesome. HBH is, for those listening, his or her great grandfather was Brigham Young's dentist and was the first Jew to join the Mormon Church. That's interesting. Cool.
Well, he probably liked all the ladies, you know. But anyway, so that's
but
pretty
his
good.
son, wasn't his son trans? One of them. It's like a cross-dresser.
Cults during that period of time, the Oneidas and a bunch of different sex cults that broke out during that period, and that's the only one that still exists. But anyway, not to say that it's only sex cult, but that was kind of its main thing there.
Okay, back to the ship. Take us to read
it. So I was kind of freaked out, and for a long time I was it scared me a lot. But then Zoma answered it. Answered the sort of the question that I've been sort of jangling around in my head for a lot since I had that experience, which it was a long time ago now, really. Can't even remember. We talked about it here. But the answer to it was that the grays are, and this explains sort of too why only certain people get taken. Only certain people get taken and are experiencers, right? And other people don't. And what Zoma said was that the early people that were part of the experiment who did this sort of amalgamation of primate and their genetics and seeded the earth and kind of made it as it is. Those original people got stuck. They volunteered to incarnate, well, their bodies. This is completely insane, but anyway, just listen to the crazy. This is encapsulate this part of it because it's pretty interesting. That they have technology to take you out of your body, put you back in a different body. So they put the bodies in stasis because they live for a very long time, like 1,000 years or something like that. They pull the body out and they said, okay, you reincarnate through these primates and live this life and see what that's all about and come back with the information, right? Well, what Zoma was saying was that they tried that. That was a part of this experiment, and the bodies were kind of made partially to really study reincarnation, understand how Source reincarnated, how that system worked, so this was sort of an experiment to sort of really study reincarnation. And they put these bodies into, I'm sure there's lots of reasons, but that was one of the main reasons. So some of the beings that volunteered as sort of reincarnation astronauts, I guess you could say, got stuck in the wheel and couldn't come back out of the wheel of karma. They would be recycled back to Source and come back because they would create karma. And since it's so dense and heavy and the body didn't quite fit together with their DNA, it was kind of a funky model that didn't really allow for them to have total control like they did in their other setting. So they got stuck in this cycle of being entrapped for a long time. So they started trying to tag those people and pull them back out, pull them out of the cycle. And I was relieved kind of to hear that because I felt like that's a lot better than them trying to, and so they were, than what I thought, but that they were kind of like debriefing people. So they take the person, so they trick some people to come back and hang out with them. Then they sort of take the information from that life and it's part of the research. And then that soul goes back to Source and comes back. But I think, the whole mess that they created was what the other part of that message was, that this thing that they created here was both, it's sort of like a trap, even though it has this potential to be a really incredible accelerator at the same time, because you have short lives, you learn a lot and kind of move quickly through many, many, many reincarnations in a very, like in the lifespan of a normal one of these ETs. So it has an allure for beings to want to come here because it allows you to have a tremendous amount of growth in a very short period of time, but it's very difficult to come out of it. It's very difficult to not create karma. And this is the problem with the whole thing that needs to be reset. That was the basic vibe. So for me, I felt a lot better about that after this being told me that, because I've been really stressed out about that as a thing, like worrying about when you transition, are you going to be tricked into this weird thing where you have to be thrown back? You know what I mean? It is really thinking. Yeah.
Well, you can't win for losing because you're inherently, as a human being, predisposed to building up a debt of negative karma and having real challenge and difficulty of creating the positive karma and achieving a balance. You can't win for losing.
Well, that's exactly what Zoma was saying. It's sort of like taking a primate model and merging their consciousness into it and kind of creating this hybrid was a problem because
it
was a bad idea. Those things don't work together. And so it's created this sort of weird thing that you get stuck here because of that, because your body is in a much denser, heavier, lower vibration than the souls that are incarnating. So there's an internal war here within yourself between your higher nature and your animal nature. And this is creating this trap for people. And that's the reason the universe is putting it to an end and kind of cutting up all this and kind of resetting, because people have been stuck here for so long, some people, and they really just can't get out of it. And it's unmerciful. It's not a good thing.
Can I ask you a question? Are we do we get extra credit for the fact that we are attempting? No, this is serious. Sometimes
I know, but I like it to get a star.
I feel put upon because I've struggled to be a halfway decent human being, and it's only halfway. I fully admit that. But this obstacle in my path constantly of the complete assholes who make life so difficult and almost, I mean, anger and hatred are part of the seven deadly sins, and I feel it every day, and it's their fault.
Well, that's the problem with being. That you encapsulated the problem. Is that you have this body that has a reaction to things, like you get upset and angry. You can't control your emotions as this primate being, but to be better, and that's the paradigm problem right there. You know what I mean?
It's a conflict. Yeah,
it's an internal conflict,
and then it makes me resentful, and I think that's bad too.
Well,
you just can't win.
You can't really win. That's why that Zoma was saying that this thing is coming to an end. It's going to be like everything is cut up, and all the karmic contracts are just dispelled, and that's sort of the emancipation that they talk about in the Bible, where people come back, they're freed basically, but they think of it as literal, but it's
Your
figurative.
sins are forgiven, right?
Everything is sort of reset and forgiven, and you're no longer tied to all this stuff.
Olays? Who's
going
Olay?
to be the beginning. Just wanted to say hi. Oh, maybe you're
Hi,
saying
Joy. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Joy. Hola, maybe they're just trying to say, maybe it was just a mistype. Hola.
Or maybe just going to go back to the beginning earlier, later or something. No, that was just so interesting. I found that series you wrote very, very interesting, because it kind of bothered me too, because I was hearing about like this prison planet sort of thing that you just keep, and and I know my own personal feelings is kind of this anti-natalist, and it's not said in judgment towards anyone that had kids. That's not where I'm coming from, and it has nothing to do with depression.
Okay.
But that's what some people try to say. They go, "Oh, you're depressed and you hate people that have kids." No, that's not.
No.
But people that don't understand it.
I lost close friends. I lost close friends because they didn't believe that we were doing the right thing, overpopulating the planet. I had a friend tell me when I had baby number 3, she said to me, "Well, I won't say anything this time, but there better not be a next time." And when I got pregnant with my 4th child, she never spoke to me again.
I mean, how dare she? That's the thing, and this is the other thing that I thought was so. What? Yeah, I mean, what kind of friend is that? And it's like. But it's so interesting that I remember growing up and we were told that all the time, that there's an overpopulation problem. Mm-hmm. And now they're saying, oh, they need more so you just have to go with what is right for you, because the government, you can't believe any of it.
They just want more rich white freaks,
But it's like even, like these people that they'll judge you for if you eat meat or whatever. Nobody has any right to do that. Like if you're having a kid, judging you for that, or they just don't have that right. That's my opinion.
No, it's true. I mean, I think but that goes to the same central problem, is that being human is kind of like a prison planet. You know what I'm saying? Where you get entrapped in this kind of lower form energy of the body, yet you're not really of that. Your spirit is much higher and much more divine. So that intersection, for a lot of people, they get stuck very much in this earthly kind of anger, and I mean, we all do to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't help it. But some people really embrace it, and we all know who those kind of people are. There's plenty of them around, and then they perpetuate violence and hatred and trauma, and then that makes it harder for everyone else to ascend out of it.
Yeah.
And
so many people are saying to me these days, "I'm just so exhausted."
Yes,
and it's not a physical exhaustion. It's a spiritual exhaustion. I understand that. I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah, it is exhausting. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so those were kind of my points. Anyway, I just found it so interesting. Your Substack kind of answered these questions that I had pre-written, and then I read your thing, and it's like, oh, okay.
Really? Okay.
Like, yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it was, you know.
What other questions did you have that were answered?
Well, okay, now here's one that wasn't answered.
Okay.
Will consciousness go into non-biological life forms?
Yes. Yes, that's what Zoma is. That's
Why?
what Zoma is. I have past life memories of that. And actually I did my first I did a reincarnation whatever, like a hypnotherapy session, right? A long time ago in the 80s. And so I was probably like 19 years old or 20. And the first thing I saw was me with a group consciousness, discarnate. We didn't have bodies, but we were in this group hive mind, which was very weird. I mean, it was like 1986 or something, or 85. I'd never heard of this before. And we were all interacting with one another, and we had our individuality, but we had, we're totally discarnate, and we were all together. We were living on this planet, just sort of floating around. So I do think that people do have lifetimes where they're not in physical body, that they can be in like collectives, like Zoma, like where you're learning from one another and you're in a different dimensional space, but you're still with people and you still have your personality, but you're not in a physical body. I think so, because I had that experience.
And now, so now let's look at some of these tech bros think they're going to incarnate like in machines or circuitry or something like that. Is that possible? I don't think so. Can their consciousness get trapped in a circuit board or not? I don't know.
I don't think so. I thought about this a lot because they've been talking about that. You'd have to have the kind of technology that the ETs have, where you can take the soul and put it into something else. And even then, I don't think you could put it into like a machine, because from what I know about the ET stuff is, the ETs do have biological robot type things that don't have souls. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't put it into a robot, a biological clone, a soul, how are you going to put it into a machine? It's just totally doesn't make sense. I don't think you can attach that kind of divine source into something mechanical like that. I think what they're really talking about, to me, it's a really stupid idea in a lot of ways, because it's kind of like, remember when people first started taking photos of people and people would think, my soul is in there, or like some people wouldn't want their picture taken because they thought it was taking their soul.
Yep.
It's, I think it's the same kind of idea. It's sort of like a weird primitive thing that if you put every bit of information about you into something, it'll make it you, but it's not you.
No, you have to have the capacity for free will and emotion.
You have to have the divine spark, your consciousness.
That's what that is.
Yeah, your consciousness is not all your experiences in this lifetime. Those are just your experiences.
If you can't feel love and unity with other people, then you're not fulfilling your
well, you can't even get to the you part there. You know what I'm saying? There's no you. Think about it like if you were like there's companies that take people's video images and make these memorials and put them on in different cemeteries and stuff, okay?
Yep.
The videotapes and all the memorial stuff, that's not the person. Their soul is gone. So to me, this is just like a really elaborate version of that. You're memorializing yourself. It's a picture of you. It's your ideas, it's your everything about you. But think about AI. AI takes everything that we've ever done intellectually throughout time that has ever been on the internet. Yes, consciousness is eternal. It's eternal.
And hello, Joan.
So if you think about it this way, if you're just creating a very elaborate hologram of yourself, basically. Mm-hmm. But that's not you, It's a picture of you. It's like a mirror of you, but it's not you. I mean, when you look in the mirror, you don't think that it's you, it's a mirror. But the ancient people, when they saw mirrors, would cover them because They thought that was
Yes.
a gateway between this world and the next. So
I understand that though, because I have a very similar visceral negative reaction to things like those little boxes that talk when you talk to them.
oh,
Do you know you know what I'm talking about? I
No.
just find those, people have them in their house and they tell them to turn the lights on.
Oh, you're talking about Alexa or Echo.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a real problem with those on a visceral level. I don't know what it is about them. The same gut feeling I get when you say AI, I go, ugh. And then the other issue that I can't stand hearing about is hive mind. I'm afraid of bees. I don't want a hive mind.
Hive mind is just a collection of souls
I
that
know.
are telepathic with one another that live together.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
know that. But
Yeah.
I still find that a difficult concept because individuality. And I know you keep your individuality.
You do,
I have a hard
yeah.
time reconciling the two things.
Well, think
You
about
know
it the
what?
same
Go
Humanity-
ahead.
Humanity is a hive mind too. It's called the collective consciousness. It's just that we are not evolved enough to always tune into that. And sometimes we do. That's how people are psychic, right? You're tuning into the hive mind. So we live the same way. We just have a physical barrier that basically imposes the sense of individuality, even though we're really not completely.
I
we are
embrace
and we're
that.
not. We're both. We're both.
Yeah.
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 To illustrate that, I was out, I haven't done this in years and years, but I used to just go out into the wilderness and stay there for like 3 days and fast and whatever and get my visions. And I was shown what this like hive mind mass consciousness, however you want to call it. The first thing I saw was a cloud of grasshoppers.
Nice.
And it said, this is like one consciousness, but each grasshopper has its own consciousness within this one consciousness.
Right.
And so they know where to go eat and they know where.
Right.
And so then the next thing I was shown, a huge flock of birds went migrating south. And it said it's the same thing. It's like
Yep.
each bird is like a member of a greater whole that knows to go south and what to do. So that's how I view the hive mind because of that meditation.
Absolutely. That's absolutely, actually, morphic resonance and what Rupert Sheldrake studied that when the monkeys, that story, talked about that story, the monkey for years were always picking the seeds out of the sand. And one day, one of the monkeys on these islands that were totally disconnected from one another, put it in the water and picked them off the top. Every monkey across all of the islands that instantaneously started doing the same thing. Think about in humanity, the car was invented by two people at the same time. In fact, there's two heads. That's writers talk about stories about how they have, they come up with the same story at the same time,
Polio vaccine, Sabine
There
and
you
Saab.
go.
The
Yeah.
HIV was discovered in
Right.
France and the United States at the same time.
Yeah.
That was a
because-
scary time.
Yeah.
I bet it was. Yeah.
Horrifying. Yeah.
Well, it's maybe coming back.
Oh,
Can always count on you, Denise.
Well, some people want to bring it back. They shall remain nameless. Yeah.
Bove, did you have some thoughts about these population rises, declines, the paradox of reincarnation?
I don't actually understand a lot of the details, the finer details of what you girls have been talking about. I'm very much believe in reincarnation and that, but yous are talking about stuff that I'm sitting here and I'm going, oh my God.
Well, we don't understand it either,
I
so-
can look back to the 60s.
We're just BSing you.
We just talk.
I remember being in school and the classrooms exploding to 35 kids to teacher. And now not that. I have nothing of that.
Oh, we just.
She and I both have had some internet issues. It's been going on for like a week out in this area. At first, I thought it was because of the storms and everything that went through, but although it might snow tonight, so we'll see.
Oh,
So,
God.
Yay!
Oh, I love it. It'll fill the aquifer. We need it so bad. Oh, speaking of the floods, so Rita, remember she was on the show like a couple of weeks last time or whatever.
She okay?
She's fine. That whole town, you know, I am so glad I did not go down there. Justine and I both were kind of like, you know what, we better not go.
I'm so
Well,
glad
where
you
we were going, oh gosh, where we were going to stay at an Airbnb there, that whole highway washed out. I mean, they had to close it off, fix it. You could just see how it like fell. And Rita said she was fine, and you know, and they're doing their tours and everything again. So we'll go down on the 15th, and so I'll film and share with you anything that we may. Yeah. So, but so glad we didn't go. But it was like the whole Four Corners area was just bam, and now it's supposed to go like the West Coast. Coming up this weekend, because there's another of those huge, what are those called? Those atmospheric rain rivers or whatever is going through.
Yes. Right.
So the whole West is just getting pummeled. You know, and the problem is
it's rained here all week. In fact, I didn't even wake up until 8:30 this morning because it was dark. It was like nighttime.
I can see
and
that.
it never. I don't know if you can tell that I have all the lights on, like it's nighttime. There's still, you know, pseudo daylight outside, but it's so dark. It's like night. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been like that here too.
Wow. Yeah, it's there's also a burgeoning hurricane, a big one, sort of getting ready to blow up, I guess. It's just stationary. It's this big, weird. They're kind of really worried about it because they think it might get up to Category 5, and it's already really massive. And
well,
it's
isn't it true the
like,
longer it's in one spot?
yes, and it's in the hottest part of the water. So they think it's going to get really big, and they have no idea where it's going to go. And they've got they have no idea where it's going to go. It's got it's going 2 miles an hour. It's moving. So it's moving extraordinarily slowly. Yeah, it's really, it could be very bad. Yeah. Yep.
So, well, I know you had to take care of your daughter tonight, Denise. So I don't want to keep you too long, but any closing thoughts, you guys? And then I'll put this movie on for everyone's entertainment.
One of the things that you got in your Substack, Denise, was reassuring. You asked about intent. Were these beings of evil intent to people, or were they benign?
Yeah.
That's right.
And there was like a thread of reassurance through it. And given this book that you're forcing us to read and the conversation I had yesterday.
Right. Oh, well, I want to hear about that too. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Well, you can just listen to it.
I will listen to it.
Yeah, the video's out. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't make me say it again.
Okay.
Because it was like an hour. I can't remember everything.
No, I know, but what was his basic take on it? Just encapsulate.
Well, very much the opposite. He's an archdeacon in the Anglican Church, and although he doesn't have a congregation anymore because he came out, broke his leg, and during the healing process pursued linguistic inconsistencies in ancient scripture globally, and put together this Venn diagram with the central origin story of humanity being saved from chaos by beings from the universe. And it repeats and repeats. They're gods, they're Elohim, they're Nephilim hybrids, you know.
Right.
But his point of view, the direction he's coming from, is that they came with benevolent intent.
Right.
And maybe there were battles between them, but the ones that are here are attempting to help us. I'm not quite so sanguine, but it was reassuring to hear. So
for the people who don't know what we're talking about, what's the name of the book again and title?
Our book that we're reading?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you show it? Yeah.
Final Event by Nick Redfern, and the cover says everything.
Yes.
I'm reading this thing and I'm creeped out.
Yeah. I think that's true, though, that they are. I don't think that they're necessarily entirely benevolent or entirely.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I think that that's sort of what Zoma was saying, was that they had their own agenda.
Yeah.
They were trying to figure things out themselves, and this was an experiment, and it became, you know, I mean, it is what it is. You know, we all kind of decided to be part of the experiment at some point, but
Yeah.
I think that there are benevolent ones, and there's probably malevolent ones, and then there's ones that are neutral. I think it's probably all of those possibilities are probably, and probably our ideas of angels and demons come from our experiences with these beings.
Well, that's exactly what that, you know, that's kind of the consensus here is that, you know, the Hermetic principles describe these multiple layers of vibratory evolutionary growth, right? And they can describe every single one and what your soul would be, whatever. My theory, this is my theory, my book that I'm going to write, is that potato, for some people it's an ET, for another people it's demigod or a demon.
Yes.
Right.
It's a matter of interpretation and the context from which you come. If you're fundamentalist Christian,
absolutely.
You're looking for demons.
No, that's right. It's all about, look, it's, to me, that when I watched, and I think I've talked about this before here, it really drove it home. When I watched, there was, you know, there's those, there were used to be on, I think it was on one of those channels like Discovery or the Travel Channel. There were all of these a haunting in Connecticut, a haunting in this thing, a haunting in that thing. And they were really fun, you know, to watch because there are all these different weird, you know, haunted house stories. But then they did a series only about the Amish, and it was Amish hauntings. And there, it was amazing because every haunting was because they put electricity in their walls. And so it was like they secretly put electricity and they didn't tell anybody in the community and they knew it was bad. And then all of a sudden, all these things started moving, all these terrible things happened and the demons came out and all this. As soon as they got rid of the electricity, the haunting stopped. And I thought, this is really interesting because their perspective and they feel guilty about putting the electricity in. It's probably their own unconscious guilt and manifesting in a poltergeist. And fear.
Yeah.
And that's, but their perspective really drove it home. It's like, we see it as ghosts, other people see it as demons, some people see it as electricity.
Right.
Well, Halloween
Exactly.
Next week at the end of the week is Halloween, and I'm doing a series of sort of scary things, scary related for the week, and culminating in a synopsis of a video, a documentary called My Amityville Horror, and it centers the child of the family that was haunted as an adult, and it talks about, it's very interesting.
Wow.
Ed and Lorraine Warren are in it. Woo.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's really, really good. And then Deborah and I are going to get together and see what she can manifest. I'm a little worried. I'm going to burn sage because,
Oh gosh. So folks, I'm going to put this video on, but how I had concluded this, don't be afraid that and judge people for not having kids. And as the population goes down, it might just be a matter of classes over, lesson learned.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
move on.
Might be a good thing. Maybe that's part of this.
Just don't judge.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
All right,
Totally.
so if people want to comment on this afterwards, we'll still be here. It's up to you guys if you want to stay. It's fascinating if you haven't seen it. This is from 1947 when it was legit called the Department of War in the United States.
Henry here got on the train with $200. He couldn't see any harm in a friendly game of cards. What if the other men were strangers? And take Joe Collins. He's got a nice wife at home. But he met this girl at the bar, and she looked after the first couple of drinks. There's a good old-fashioned word for people like us. We call them suckers. And there are other people. People who stay up nights figuring out how to take away what they've got. There are all kinds of games. Mike here, for instance. He's got everything in him. He's young, he's healthy, got a job. And he's got plenty of food. Big factories to make things a man can use. Big cities to do the business of a big and people. Lots of people. Enough to work the farm and build the factories, dig the mines, run the business. All kinds of people. People from different countries with different religions, different colored skins. Free people. They can live together and work together and build America together because they're free. Free to vote, to say what they please, go to their own churches, to pick their own jobs. Yeah, Mike's got something, all right. He's got America. But there are guys who stay up nights figuring out how to take that away from him.
I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American, and some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
This fellow seems to know what he's talking about. What are we real Americans going to do about it? You'll find it right here in this little pamphlet. The truth about Negroes and foreigners. The truth about the Catholic Church.
Do you believe in that kind of talk?
That all makes pretty good sense to me. And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without. Without what? Yeah, without what? Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics. Without Freemasons. You know these people.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fellow's talking about me.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
These are your enemies. These are the people who are trying to take over our country. Now you know them. You know what they stand for. And it's up to you and me to fight them. Fight them and destroy them before they destroy us. Thank you.
Before he said Masons, you were ready to agree with him.
Well, yes, but he was talking about... What about those other people?
But in this country, we have no other people. We are American people.
What about you? You aren't American, are you?
I was born in Hungary, but now I am an American citizen. And I have seen what this kind of talk can do. I saw it in Berlin.
What were you doing there?
I was a professor at the university. I heard the same words we have heard today. But I was a fool then. I thought Nazis were crazy people, stupid fanatics. But unfortunately, it was not so. You see, they knew that they were not strong enough to conquer a unified country. So they split Germany into small groups. They used prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple the nation. Of course, that was not easy to do. They had to work hard to do it. You see, we human beings are not born with prejudices. Always they are made for us. Made by someone who wants something. Remember that when you hear this kind of talk. Somebody is going to get something out of it. And it isn't going to be you. This is not classroom theory. I saw it happen. I saw it first in Berlin in 1932. 5 young men that I knew were standing in the crowd listening to the Nazi speaker. Eric was a Catholic. Anton, a student of mine, was a Jew. Heinrich owned a small hardware store. Karl was a farmer. And Hans was an unemployed metal worker.
To all you Aryan Germans, I say it is time you inherited the nation which rightfully belongs to you. To you alone belongs the glorious destiny of the greater Germany. The Nazi Party will provide land for the farmer, work for the worker, and profits for the small businessman. Who is getting these things now? The Jew. The Jew who has stolen our nation and our birthright. Who makes all the money and takes all our jobs. The Jew, he must be shunned. He must be ostracized. He must be eliminated. And the Catholics. We don't want our great nation run by a foreign church. We Germans will know what to do with these people when the time comes. They and their faith must be destroyed. Then there are the Freemasons. In Germany, we have no place for secret societies. There will be only one society, and that is the Nazi Party. There will be no secrecy about that in the new Greater Germany.
One by one, he attacked each minority and he split them off one from the other. These men were all fellow Germans when they came here today. Now they were split into rival groups, suspicious of each other, hating each other. They were being swindled, all of them. But the man who was really being fooled was Hans. He was pure German, according to Nazi standards. To him they promised everything, and he fell for it. That's how Hans became a Superman. They gave him a uniform and they pumped up his ego. He wasn't just a little fellow out of work anymore. He was a member of the master race. Hans and thousands of others like him, all playing a sucker's game. They gambled with other people's liberty, and of course they lost their own. A nation of suckers. Hitler needed these people. There was lots of work to be done. There were trade unions to be smashed, because unions were organized and might offer resistance. There were many political parties in Germany. These the Nazis destroyed. They were determined to smash every organization where people might band together and resist them. There were Jews to be beaten and killed. The Jews were not powerful, but they were a convenient excuse for all the nation's ills. And besides, a Nazi party member could not take over this man's store. Hundreds of Catholics were put in jail because the Catholic Church had strength and could resist the Nazi drive for power. They had split the nation into 100 pieces, and then one by one, they had destroyed the pieces. Over these broken pieces, the Nazis rode into power. One party, one nation, one religion. These men had won their struggle for power. They now ruled all of Germany. But still they had trouble with their oldest and most persistent enemy, the truth. They found that truth does not die easily, and so they decided to abolish truth. One great source of truth is literature, so they burned books, 20 million of them. Many great men in Germany who were spokesmen for truth were jailed or driven from their country. Teachers, writers, scientists. Education was discouraged. In 5 years, college attendance dropped 53%. It was forbidden to listen to a British radio program or read an American newspaper. In Nazi Germany, you had to get your information from Dr. Goebbels. He knew what was best for you. The church was one force in Germany still strong enough to proclaim the truth in public. This Catholic priest was arrested the following day on charges of immorality. The Protestant church also continued to try and fight for truth. The Nazis put this man in a concentration camp. There were others who spoke for truth, and I am proud to say that educators were among them.
And what, may I ask, is an Aryan? I don't know myself. But let us see what our present so-called authorities have to say about it. They say he is tall, slender, blue-eyed, and blonde. There is no Aryan race, and And more important, there is no master race. There are people who may find these ideas convenient, but science cannot support them. There is no scientific proof that there's any correlation between a man's racial characteristics and his native ability or character. In all racial groups, we find the same range of potentialities. We find idiots and geniuses. We find criminals and philanthropists. We must judge each man as an individual and not by the color of his skin or his eyes or by the length of his nose. Come in, gentlemen. It's comfortable. And remember that there is no master race. That is a scientific truth. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying.
And so for all practical purposes, truth had been abolished in Germany. A lot of my German friends wondered what had hit them. How did it happen? Where did it start? And stopped. If those people had stood together, if they had protected each other, they could have resisted the Nazi threat. Together they would have been strong. But once they allowed themselves to be lost out, everybody lost out. They made the mistake of gambling with other people's freedom. Now let's see how those bets paid off. Karl the farmer was gambling on a bet hours of back-breaking work, as much as 100 hours a week. He was forced to stay on his land and produce what he was told to produce, because now Hitler was preparing for war. For Heinrich, who owned the hardware store, the bet didn't pay off either. 104,000 small businesses were closed in 2 years. And for Hans, conditions hadn't improved any. He had a job now in a munitions factory, but he worked long hours for little pay. The working conditions grew increasingly bad. And even though he didn't like the job, he wasn't permitted to leave it. And when Hitler decided the time was right, Germany went to war. Not by declaring war, but by a carefully prepared sneak attack. Once again, Hitler needed Hans to do his dirty work. Hans was an expert at brutality this time, and Hitler had decided to use Hans and his brutality against other peoples, the Czechs, the Poles, the French, the Russians. But in the crucial test of war, Hitler's race theories didn't pay off. His pure-blooded supermen were defeated by the mongrel armies he despised. By the British of El Alamein. By the Russians at Stalingrad. Then on D-Day by American soldiers of every color and religion, who smashed across the Normandy beaches and drove on through to the heart of Germany. For the misguided Germans who had swallowed the Nazi bait, the Nazi game did not pay off. The continent of Europe was strewn with millions of German bodies, pure Aryan bodies. Karl the farmer was left in the snow outside of Moscow. Heinrich stayed in Italy at Salerno. And Hans, who was going to rule the world, got only a little patch of Normandy that he could call his own.
We must never let that happen to us or to our country. We must never let ourselves be divided by race or color or religion, because in this country we all belong to minority groups. I was born in Hungary. You are a Mason. These are minorities. And then you belong to other minority groups too. You are a farmer. You have blue eyes. You go to the Methodist church. Your right to belong to these minorities is a precious thing. You have a right to be what you are and say what you think, because here we have personal freedom. We have liberty. And these are not just fancy words. This is a practical and priceless way of living. But we must work at it. We must guard everyone's liberty, or we can lose our own. If we allow any minority to lose its freedom by persecution or by prejudice, we are threatening our own freedom. And this is not simply an ideal. This is good, hard common sense. You see, here in America is not a question whether we tolerate minorities. America is minorities. And that means you and me. So let's not be suckers. We must not allow the freedom or dignity of any man to be threatened by any act or word. Let's be selfish about it. Let's forget about we and they. Let's think about us.
Pretty interesting from our own government. 1947.
You know, I said to somebody today that we have gone down, maybe it was to you, we've gone down the rabbit hole, and it's a bottomless pit. And it's just awful, awful.
Yep. And that there's a group of us that are trying to preserve that film and keep it in the public domain, because this was a PSA, a public service announcement put out by our very own military, that we can't be doing this, you know, targeting against minorities like that. It's a very powerful film.
Yeah, and that was actually the concept that the founding fathers, the founders of the country started with. There is no such thing as one person with full authority. Nobody wants a monarchical, tyrannical government, and we don't want the tyranny of the majority or the minority. They try to put checks and balances in to guarantee that everybody had some sort of a voice. Unfortunately, they came up with the Electoral College. I don't know what that is about, but they could not have anticipated the end of rural America and the growth of parties.
Yes.
Parties. Yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, I wanted to share that, preserve it. Thank you for staying.
It was heartbreaking. It's hard to watch.
It was. And now they're calling it the Department of War again and completely switching the message. And the thing is, we look at populations and it's like, you know, we've got some choices here about what to do. And maybe it is a good thing that the population is decreasing. Lesson learned, we're out of here.
Well, you know, I was talking about the No Kings rally this last weekend, and it was fabulous. More people than anticipated, completely peaceful, using humor and satire to make a point, all a great point of departure. But now everyone's gone back to work, and there's a lot of back patting going on. We did great, didn't we? Where are the leaders? Where are the voices that are actually making changes in policy in Washington, D.C.? I'm very fearful that we're going to self-congratulate all the way to the gulag.
Yeah. Well, and like Kathy says, it's a powerful movie. We need to stand together, stay peaceful and positive, and we'll conquer the evil. And I think the only place that we can truly do that is within our own communities and through our own examples and how we treat one another. It seems to me that that is the only thing we can't project it out to our government. They're not going to do anything.
Have to start over, start locally, start in your community, your family, your neighbors, and you can't change people's minds, but you can set example.
Exactly. Well, you're always a good example. I love you a bunch, Helen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You need to be congratulated and thanked for all the work you do. You put so much work into these shows. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for acknowledging it.
Nothing.
No, you bring insight. I'm trying to make these evergreen so that, they'll have relevance, down the road. And I think you do that too with your interviews. I mean, I'm just shocked by the caliber of people that you have on your channel. Can you tell people that may not know it's Irish Granny, right?
Helen. Yeah, Irish Granny Helen. And my Substack is Ask Your Irish Granny. I give free advice because my children won't listen to me. So, I would love to have questions and give free advice. But I also write essays and put videos there that I can't put on YouTube because YouTube is sensitive.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good stuff. So I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. And so next week we'll be talking about comets. And I'm finding some weird things from the newspaper articles to go along with it. And I just want to thank you so much. You have a good evening.
Thank you, Deborah. Well, comets are harbingers of doom.
I've got some good things. Love y'all. Love you guys that joined us. We appreciate you so much.
Very much.
All right. Here we go.
Donald.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.